to the return of Project MK Got You. As always, I'm your host, Carrie, with...
It's true. We were not kidnapped. We are alive. We're back. Oh, yeah. And I'm Chris.
Yeah, we just took a little sabbatical, y'all. Y'all know how rough the holidays are, and then you got seasonal depression layered in on that, plus the weather's shitty, plus you're just really lazy and don't really want to do anything.
Yeah, it's a combination of shitty factors, but mainly laziness.
Mainly laziness, yeah. We just keep putting this off. So we're back. We're coming to you. This week, I'm doing kind of like the best of both. It's like my two worlds mesh. Like, I really love comedy and I really love murder, and like this episode just
and they go hand
combines them. So this week we're going to be talking about the haunting of the Comedy Store. Now, have you ever been to the Comedy Store?
It's like a spot in LA.
Yeah, it's off of Sunset Strip. It was like right near our friend's apartment when we went to LA.
Oh, it's like right near like Hollywood.
Yeah, it's on the Sunset
like
Strip.
Hollywood.
Yeah. So my resources for this week's episode is the dailybruin.com, Explore.com. Sorry, I'm saying that totally wrong.
What is that, some Latin?
I don't know. And then ghost.hauntedhouses.com. And the main reason I picked this one is because I watched the Unsolved Mysteries episode from 1996 about this recently. And I was like, why have we never done the Comedy Store? It's like kind of one of the best hauntings out there. At least I think. I mean, you know. So let's just let's dive in. Sorry, you guys, we're like still dusting off the cobwebs and like still like not 100%.
Talking is difficult.
Talking is hard
gotta,
for me.
Flap your mouth and move your tongue. You have to read and talk at the same time. It's
which
like
I'm
multitasking.
I'm not good at either. And I'm reading my own writing, which I'm really not good at. So we're just like fucked. All right, let's dive in. So, the history of the Comedy Store. So, in the 1930s, it was Ciro's, which was a mafia-owned and run nightclub on the Sunset Strip. And apparently the mob would really like to use the Sunset Strip because back then it was considered unincorporated territory. So, the LAPD didn't have any jurisdiction there.
Oh, wow.
So, like, during Prohibition and stuff like that, they would... run like speakeasies and all that stuff. So, so this kind of like gives us an idea of like the Comedy Store's dark past. The basement of Ciro's was known as the torture room.
Oh, that's cute.
Anyone who was perceived to have committed wrong against the mob was taken to the underbelly of the building where their fate would be decided. The lucky ones had their kneecaps smashed or their thumbs broken, and others were never seen again. Yeah.
Well, that's cute.
Yeah. Oh, also, the basement was utilized. Wow.
That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big word. As an illegal abortion clinic in like the 1930s and
wow,
stuff. Yeah.
Such like a colorful
establishment.
Yeah.
So a woman who claimed to be a nurse performed the procedures in the dimly lit bowels.
Claimed to be a nurse.
So she performed these procedures in the basement of Ciro's, due in part to the unsterile environment and questionable qualification of the abortionists. Many of the women that were sent there to end their unwanted pregnancies died on the table. So, you know, not a super happy place, but it's really crazy too, because like if you look back at the like pictures from like the 1930s and 40s, like everyone was there, like A-list people. But I mean, we know that a lot of A-list people were in with the mob too in Hollywood. The mob's kind of has a deep root. We should actually do an episode on the mob in Hollywood. It's like really fascinating.
The mob was everywhere. The mob was everywhere. Like in Vegas and like Hollywood.
Yeah, when I was in Vegas, they have a mob museum there. I didn't go to it though because I was too busy winning shmoney. Okay, let's fast forward. So let's fast forward to 1972. The Comedy Store was opened by comedians Rudy DeLuca and Sammy Shore, a.k.a. Pauly Shore's dad and mom.
Shut the front door, really?
Yeah, Mitzi Shore ran the store.
Oh, I bet Pauly Shore was like the biggest disappointment to his dad.
He had a really big career.
I'm just being a hater. No, I actually love Pauly Shore.
Weasel. I love Pauly
sorry,
Shore.
salty.
I know, you're a salty bitch. I love Pauly Shore. Like, what's the one where he marries the farmer's daughter, son-in-law?
Oh my! I actually really love that one too. Yeah,
I love
he's like an
that
8th year, like super senior.
Super senior, yeah. He's like, I'm your residential advisor. Love it. So it was opened by Rudy DeLuca and Sammy Shore. Their dream was to turn the club into a showcase for comedians like themselves who needed a place to perfect their craft. Shore and DeLuca set to work turning the club into a desirable place for performers and audiences alike. Although it was a relatively small venue, less seating than 100 people, they tried to find the best talent possible to attract crowds. Things were going as planned and the club was making progress when in 1973, Sammy Shore and his wife divorced, aka Mitzi Shore. Mitzi Shore passed away in 2018, but she took over operations at the Comedy Store as part of their divorce agreement. She would later buy the building outright and expand it to seat over 400 guests. By 1976, the Comedy Store was a force to be reckoned with. A-list celebrities even asked to book the newly renovated club for their lavish weddings. The popular night spot became one of the go-to spots along the Sunset Strip for artists and patrons alike. Throughout the coming years, comedians flocked to Mitzi's club for the chance to perform in front of a full house every night. So,
kind of a big deal.
So, I can't really get into so there's several entities apparently that live in the comedy or haunt the Comedy Store, and I can't tell the story with one without mentioning the writer's strike. So there was a comedian strike which ended when Mitzi agreed to pay some of her. So there was a comedian strike because when they first started the Comedy Store, they weren't paying their comedians. Like, they were just using it as a space for them to work out their material and stuff. So basically what happened was all these comedians went on strike because they were like, fuck you, pay us, because we're the people that are we're attracting the crowds. So this went on. So basically it finally ended when Mitzi agreed to pay it wasn't that great. I mean, I think they got paid $15 an hour or something. Even after that,
that's pretty good,
but it's better than
70s.
yeah. But when you're a comedian and you're only going up and you're doing 5-minute spots, 10-minute spots, stuff like that, because when you start out at the Comedy Store, you do 2 to 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's
that's
fuck.
One day a week or a couple days a week.
Well, no, it's every night.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, they operate pretty much every night. But after the strike was over, Mitzi was still kind of upset with the more vocal comedians that were speaking out about it. And so those comedians were actually permanently banned from the Comedy Store forever. So as a result...
yeah, fuck you for wanting to eat.
Yeah, so that brings me to the story of Steve Lubetkin. And I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. As his final act on Earth, Lubetkin leapt from the roof of the Continental Hyatt House, a hotel which was located next door to the Comedy Store. His intention had been to land on the top of Mitzi's club, but he missed his mark, instead ended up in the lot. The suicide note that he left behind simply read, "My name is Steve Lubetkin. I used to work at the Comedy Store."
Wow.
Yeah. It is believed that he is one of the ghosts that haunts the Comedy Store. Several staff members and comedians claim that someone pulls pranks on them from time to time that are reminiscent of the tragic comedian. Back in the day, Steve was known as a jokester who loved to have fun with the club's employees. He, or someone who looks remarkably like him, has been spotted on countless nights observing new comedians as they perform their acts. It appears, defiant to the end, Steve is once again part of the Comedy Store family. That's so sad.
Oh, it's a funny ghost.
Yeah, okay.
It's like a pranky
okay,
ghost.
so we're going to get to the eyewitness accounts now. So there's several different entities at play here. And they all have theories on who or what they think they are. One eyewitness account, the general manager, Jody Barton, said that some employees once playfully experimented with a Ouija board. Supposedly, the door to the side of the staircase flew open and they all fled in fear. Another time, one of the employees thought they saw someone staring in through the door's rectangular window, but when they went to open the door, the prying person drifted up and away. One ghost has even been known to walk through the tables arranged in the main room, according to Mike Schmidt, one of the Comedy Store's development comics. Okay, so you know Sam Kinison, like the biggest comic from like the 80s, big loud dude who was like the rock star of comedy.
I probably recognize him.
Oh, you would totally recognize him. He's the GOAT. He's amazing. Well, apparently he like really attracted negative like energy from these entities for whatever reason. So Sam Kinison had been a Pentecostal preacher, which I didn't know that because he was like crazy, like coked out, like wild man of a comic. So I had no idea.
Well, he has all that pent up energy from being a preacher.
Yeah. Well, apparently, like what happened is he used to be like super normal, and then he like hit his head or something, and then his personality just completely changed, and he became a comedian. I'm not even kidding. Like,
maybe that's his true.
Apparently, that's what happened. Yeah. So Sam Kinison had. So a theory is of why they fuck with him so hard is because he had been a Pentecostal preacher before turning his sights towards stand-up comedy. His style in the pulpit had been to start out quietly and then crescendo into a verbal assault that would leave his congregation wondering what hit them. Unfortunately for Kinison, his dramatic way of delivering the word of God was not popular among many of the parishioners. The abrasiveness that had alienated his flock would soon become his trademark in his world of comedy. It would, in fact, help him to make a comedy legend. Oh my gosh, sorry. Would help him become a comedy legend. I can't talk today. By 1980, Kinison was a favorite at the Comedy Store, at least among the paying customers. For reasons no one could explain, the resident spirits had taken a disliking to this loud comedian right from the start.
Everyone hates on the Yankees, on the Patriots.
Yeah, I guess.
They're like the best.
Yeah, no, he was like the shit. They would take great pains to derail his shows. For instance, sometimes the lights on stage would flicker during his performance. On other occasions, the sound system would go out, effectively silencing Kinison in the middle of the show. One night, and this is true story, like there were literally patrons in the room when this happened.
It only happens to him, or like predominantly?
No, they just fuck with him super. But this happened in front of a crowd one night. So one night, as soon as Kinison had stepped onto the stage, a swarm of angry voices began to fill the room. The voices were seething, and they repeatedly said the same exclamation over and over again. It's him! It's him! The bitter tirade grew louder and louder as the comedian attempted to get through his material. Everyone present that night could hear the voices as they echoed throughout the room, but no one could find the source of the disturbance. Whoever the hecklers were that night, they were invisible to both the performer and the audience. Having his fill of these entities, who obviously hated him, Kinison demanded that they show themselves. At that precise moment, every light in the showroom went out. As a result, the entire theater was plunged into complete darkness. They had, quite effectively, driven Kinison from the stage. No one ever knew for sure why the spirits detested Kinison above all others, but it may have something to do with his religious background. Sam, after all, had been a fire and brimstone type of preacher for several years. Perhaps they targeted him because of his deeply held faith. Whatever the reason, they made his life at the Comedy Store as miserable as they possibly could. How fucking gnarly is that?
Yeah, and this is like eyewitness accounts. Like this is a full house of people who could corroborate the story, right? That's crazy. Yeah. I thought you were going to say a swarm of angry bees, but
oh my god, that would be so gnarly.
That would be even, yeah.
Like what was that movie? The Amityville Horror, where it was a swarm of flies, just like goes after the priest. Ugh,
oh yeah, that's like a plague type stuff, like locust frogs.
Oh yeah, like in the Mummy. Oh. So on another occasion, Blake Clark and another comedian named Joey Gaynor encountered something in the basement that they could not explain. They both witnessed a black form, at least 7 feet tall, float across the floor. Terrified, the two men ran upstairs and straight out of the building onto Sunset Boulevard. After regaining their wits, the men decided to return to the basement to see if the ghostly creature they had seen was real or a figment of their imaginations. Upon descending the basement stairs, they spied the creature crouched in a corner. When it sensed their presence, it slowly rose up and made a beeline for them. Again, they ran for their lives, but not before noticing that the being only had a dark void where its face should have been.
Well, that's fucking creepy.
Yeah, so crazy. So on another occasion with the same dude, what's his name? Blake Clark. So he was, not only was he a comedian there, but he was also a security guard. So acting upon his duties as a security guard, he had gone into the basement another time to investigate a series of strange noises that were so loud that they could be heard upstairs in the main room. It was 3:00 in the morning when he cautiously made his way down the basement stairs.
By himself?
Yeah.
You never do that. Have you never watched a movie?
I mean, he's a security guard. Isn't that kind of what they do?
Yeah. What does he have? Like a whistle?
Nah, I don't even think that. He works at the Comedy Store. He's essentially a bouncer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably not even that. So anyway, he made his way down to the basement. When he reached his destination, he could hear a guttural growl emanating from somewhere in the shadows. Suddenly, he heard something strike the basement door so violently that it bowed the door outwards. To Clark, it looked...
Nope.
Yeah, right? To Clark, it looked as though someone was pushing on the door with such force that it actually was bending the wood. He wasted no time fleeing the basement for the relative safety of the upper level. Clark would return to the basement one last time while checking out the mysterious noises again. Clark watched as a black piece of paper materialized from thin air, gently touching his hand as it floated to the floor. When he picked it up, he saw one word had been etched onto the phantom paper. His name. He never stepped foot in the basement ever again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Done.
Right? So
You win, Ghost.
Crazy.
Checkmate.
And he actually, if you go back and you watch the Unsolved Mysteries episode of this, he's like one of the talking heads in it that's like telling all the stories and stuff. So they worked there for years. I don't know if this guy's still alive or not, to be honest. That was 1996.
It's like his name like crossed out. Like,
oh, I should have followed up and seen if he's still alive or if he was killed on the premises. So another time, Blake Clark came into contact with another one of the club's resident ghosts was one day when he was relaxing in the back room. He was playing a video game when he suddenly became aware that someone had joined him. He looked up to see a man dressed in a World War II bomber jacket standing across the room. Clark realized immediately that there was something odd about this visitor. His suspicions were confirmed when he attempted to speak to the man. It was then that the image before him began to fade away before completely vanishing without a trace. Later that same day, a woman working in one of the building's offices also encountered the man in the bomber jacket. When she saw him, he was hiding on the 3rd floor, crouched in a corner with a look of terror on his face. He disappeared before her eyes, just as he had done with Blake Clark. Creepy, right? So apparently several male entities frequently appear in the main room of the club. They seem to be acting as security. They are known to walk around inspecting the crowd and keeping eyes on the stage. They are said to always be dressed in clothing from the 1940s. The men hang around for a while until they are satisfied that everything is on the up and up. Once their job is done, they fade from sight. This is the 8th.
This is like a regular thing that happens.
Yeah, this is seriously how often this happens. Clark recalls one night when he saw a chair glide 20 feet across an otherwise empty stage as though being pulled and pushed by unseen hands. He and Joey Gaynor also witnessed chairs, which had only moments earlier been propped up in their proper places around the dining tables, stacked on top of each other in the middle of the room. So, like, and they show this part on the Unsolved Mysteries, too. So, like, literally the dining room is normal. There's all the chairs around it. They, like, do something, they turn back around, and all the chairs are piled in the middle of the room.
Oh, shit. This is like some Ghostbusters type shit.
Terrifying.
I wonder if Ghostbusters was inspired by these crazy...
Actually, Ghostbusters was inspired... Okay, so what's the... Dan Aykroyd from Ghostbusters. So his family has, like, a super long tradition through generations of their family in paranormal investigating, and that's actually why I started it. Yeah, they're like actually like his mom saw UFOs, he's seen UFOs. Yeah, he's like a real big believer. We have to do an episode on him too.
Yeah,
Dan Aykroyd. It's really
okay.
Good. Yeah.
Well, sorry to bring you on a tangent, but
a little tangent. Let me tell you. Also, I heard his Crystal Head vodkas. It's quite delightful. What was I talking about?
I would buy it just for the bottle.
It looks really cool. It really does. Okay, so yeah, the chairs were in the middle of the room. So Joey demanded at one point that the spirits come out and make their presence known. In response, an ashtray rose up off one of the tables and hurled itself directly at his head. It narrowly missed hitting him dead on the face. Instead,
really
it smashed against the wall behind him. Yeah. So apparently several famed psychic investigators have explored the Comedy Store, looking for answers as to whom or what is haunting the establishment. These seasoned professionals were not immune to the happenings at the club. They witnessed coins falling from the ceiling during one of their visits. On another occasion, one of the investigators experienced excruciating leg pain while in the basement. He likened that to someone having their legs broken, since the basement was used as a torture room. While on the phone taking it on a business call, Comedy Store Vice President Michael and the employee who sits at his desk across from him both saw a man dressed in 40s attire walk between their desks, glancing at them, perhaps checking on their work habits. He disappeared as they left their office. He disappeared as he left their office space. Just a few seconds after seeing this entity, both Michael and his employee dashed through the doorway, following the entity on patrol into the adjacent office. The employee there didn't see anyone living come through his office. Which I'm like, okay, you didn't see anybody living, but that's not what we're asking you, ho. We're asking if you see a ghost come through here. Like, the fuck? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So the Comedy Store is still in business and doing quite well. It remains a place where comedians of all levels of fame can showcase their material in front of a captive audience. Although they are,
it's got to be good if you'll put up with all this spooky, scary shit.
Yeah, seriously. Although they are happy to perform on the club stages, there are several comedians who refuse to enter other areas of the building. The basement, whose reputation precedes it, is considered off limits by all but the bravest of souls.
You just brick off the basement. I would just like cement wall, just like.
Yeah, and so everybody loves Joe Rogan. He's one of the resident comedians at the Comedy Store. Okay. And there's actually a snippet if you just Google like, is the Comedy Store haunted? He talks about it like several different times on his podcast. He's like, dude, he's like, I don't know if haunting's real. He's like, that basement, like, you feel fucking like heavy, like it feels dark and like terrifying, like, so like even
and Joe Rogan's like
he's a big dude.
He's like a skeptic, like a total like skeptic, and he's like an MMA fighter, like he can handle himself. So if he's scared,
and if you guys are sure, or if you guys are still not understanding like how important the Comedy Store is, here's some of the famous people that got their start there: Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Pryor, Roseanne Barr, Chevy Chase, Jim Carrey, Billy Crystal, Ellen DeGeneres, Sam Kinison, Robin Williams, Jay Leno, Arsenio Hall, Andrew Dice Clay, and Louis C.K. When I did, the night that I wrote
That's
this...
like a who's who of like the last 40 years
the
of
night,
comedy.
The night that I wrote the outline for this episode, I was like, I wonder who's playing there tonight. The comedian that was just up, or the lineup that was just... Oh my gosh. The weekly lineup that just happened last Tuesday consisted of Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, Chris D'Elia, Ron White, and Brian Callen. Also, honorable mention to Tony Hinchcliffe, who started performing there in 2007 and still hosts his podcast, Kill Tony, from the club's Belly Room. And you can also see Kill Tony on tour. Go to Kill Tony's website. I love those guys. They're great. And that is the story of the haunting of the Comedy Store. What do you think?
I thought there would be like more like spooky shit. Like,
that's a pretty spooky shit. There's a 7-foot entity with a void where his face should be, like, running after people. That's terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, like, what really scared me is, like, the chairs. Just, like, you look away, you look back, and like, everything's changed. Like, yeah, that's kind of shit.
Apparently that happens there a lot. Like, all the waitresses have reported stuff like that happening, too. Like, they'll literally, like, set up the whole dining room getting ready for, like, the people to show up for the show. And they'll, like, leave the room and they'll come back and all the chairs will be flipped back up on the tables, like how it was when they cleaned. They got broken down. Isn't that's so terrible.
Is that, like, part of the appeal? People go there because...
No, like, that's the thing. Is, like, not a lot of people talk about it. Like, I mean, obviously, like, people had done articles on it, and it was on Unsolved Mysteries in 1996. But other than that, like, I didn't even know the way I found out that the Comedy Store was haunted was through Joe Rogan's podcast, because like another fellow comedian was like, "You really think it's haunted in here?" He was like, "Dude, I don't know."
He was like, "Fuck it."
Yeah, he was like, "It feels fucking weird in there." And then once you dive into the background of the mob owning that building, using it for illegal abortions, and apparently there was also a brothel that was next door, which was run by like the same like mob crew. So that's where like a lot of the girls that needed abortions came from and stuff like that. So like, that's a really, really, really.
It was like the same building. It wasn't.
Yeah,
like...
it was called Ciro's when it was open there, and apparently Ciro's was the shit, because I read in one article that when they opened in the 1930s, they had a glass dance floor that was filled with fish, like live fish.
Oh, I've heard about that.
In the 1930s. Yeah. Like, mad money. So we definitely need to do, like, another episode on, like, the mob in Hollywood, because the Prohibition stuff and, like, the speakeasy stuff is, like, fascinating to me. Like, apparently, like, real big players hung out at Sarah's. Like, the mobsters, like, Muggsy Bones. What is his name? Sorry, guys. I did this outline last week. I cannot remember the research now. But anyway, so sorry we've been taking a sabbatical, but we're back now. I hope you guys like this episode. If you have any comments, suggestions, anything, send them our way. We are at Project MK Gotcha on Instagram, Facebook, Gmail.
Yeah, we have a website. We're on all the common podcasting platforms.
Send us tell us you hate us, tell us you love us, tell us what we should write about or what we should do next. And we missed you guys. I'm really excited to be back. It's just wasn't the theme without you.
Yes, we're back. 2020.
2020.
The new roaring 20s.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.